what focal length is best, how good should the f-stop be, and if I get this massive lens, does it look like I'm compensating for something? In this video, I'm going to recommend 2 lenses which will pretty much do everything that you need. And getting these 2 lenses versus any other is a little bit like comparing a screwdriver to a power drill. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll tell you exactly why. First off, what are these lenses? They are the 24 to 70mm and the 70 to 200mm. I'm a Sony shooter, so these are the G Master series of lenses. You could get the same focal length and 2 zoom lenses on any camera system, be Canon, Sigma, Olympus, Sony, doesn't matter. I really want you to focus on just these 2 zoom focal lengths. I'm going to break down why these 2 are the only lenses that you need in the following sections. We're going to talk focal range, primes versus zooms, price, weight, portability, speed of setup, and the different shooting scenarios. So first, let's jump into that focal range. 24 to 200 gives you every single different focal length between exactly those 2 points. A 24 is super wide. A lot of people will say if you want to get a truly wide shot, then you need to be going down and getting a 16mm or a 16 to 35. Well, I would say that isn't actually accurate. The 24mm focal range on this, when paired up with a full frame camera, is amply wide for almost every shooting scenario. The only shooting scenario I would say it falls a little bit short on is if you're a vlogger. But even if you are a vlogger, 24mm on this is amply wide for you to see your face. And I'll show a little bit of vlog footage just here to demonstrate. The 24 to 70 gives you everything from a wide to a nice medium, you know, that 50mm range, all the way to bordering into a telephoto with the 70mm. So as a one and done lens, this can do almost everything. But there are occasions where you think you want to get a little bit closer to your subject, you want that really nice depth of field, and that's where we start talking about this bad boy. With a 70 to 200, that gives you a really nice telephoto image. Not to mention, if you were to get the prime equivalent, then you wouldn't even be able to get all of those different stops between the 70 to the 200. 200mm, even when it's not a super high f-stop, has such a long focal range that you can get some really nice compression and bokeh in your shots. But let's cover the elephant in the room, because a lot of people think primes are better than zooms. And I'm going to explain to you why I would disagree with that. I've used primes and I've used zooms, and I can guarantee you, your clients, your audience, or even a seasoned veteran is gonna have a very hard time telling whether you're shooting 50mm on a zoom lens or 50mm on a prime lens. A lot of people will say primes are better because primes have got a higher f-stop and they're faster. But is faster always better? And in my experience, I'd say no. Ask my girlfriend. It's a rookie filmmaker assumption to think that having a faster lens is going to deliver you a better film or video. Don't get me wrong, who doesn't love a little bit of depth of field and sexy bokeh on your background? But I found in most shooting scenarios, I'm never really using an f-stop lower than f3 to 3.5. That's what seems to cover most of the bases when I'm out and about. And then let's dive a little bit more into primes and why I think they are not the right option compared to getting these 2 zooms. So first up, let's tackle price. Now I'm going to use Sony's G Master series to make my point here. When looking at lenses, they're expensive, and the decision a lot of the time is made on, well, what's going to be cheaper? And primes are usually cheaper than zooms. But let me explain why overall they're not quite as cheap as you might think, and why zooms might be a better option for you. The Sony G Master 2.8, so the highest spec, newest model, 24 to 70, will set you back a total of £2,099. Same again for the 70 to 200 G Master 2.8. One of those is going to set you back £2,599. When looking at lenses, they're expensive, and the decision a lot of the time is made on, well, what's going to be cheaper? And primes are usually cheaper than zooms. But let me explain why overall they're not quite as cheap as you might think. To get the variations in focal range of prime lenses, if you're going to get a Sony 24mm 1.4 G Master, you're talking a cost of £1,299. For a 50mm 1.2, you're looking at £2,099. For a Sony G Master 2.8 100mm, you're looking at a cost of £1,399. And then for a G Master 135mm f1.8, you're looking at £1,599. And if you want 200mm, then you can't get one on Sony's G Master range. So looking side by side at the primes versus the zooms, if you were to get the two zooms and get all those different focal ranges in comparison to the prime lenses, for the two zoom lenses, you're looking at a cost of £4,698. For the four prime lenses, you're looking at a cost of £6,396. So if you look at the zooms versus the primes, it's going to save you about a third of the cost. And I think it's important to note here, you don't always need to buy the most brand spanking lens in the ecosystem for the cameras that you're using. These two lenses here are not the newest or highest spec. This is one generation older, but a 2.8, and the 70-200 I got as the f4 version, so it was only 799 quid. And I think it's important to get this across because lenses hold their value from a price perspective, but they also do that because they hold their value in terms of what they can deliver, even when they're a few years older. Okay, next up, let's talk about a few little practical things then. So the weight of the lenses. The zoom lenses, by the nature of the fact that they are zoomed, so they offer those different focal ranges, means that they are heavier than a prime lens. Is this good or bad? They will make your setup on your camera heavier, but we're talking a difference of maximum around ½ kilogram. So if that's gonna really impede your shooting, then maybe you need to hit the gym. However, I would say as a caveat, when you are using these lenses, they are a bit chunkier and it does make them harder to balance on a gimbal. But if you want to invest in a couple of counterbalance weights at a cost of around 30-40 quid, that will solve all the problems that you're gonna have balancing these lenses on a gimbal. So do you want to spend a third less than the primes, but invest 30-40 quid in a couple of counterweights? But when we're talking about weight, let's also think a little bit next about portability. So although the lenses themselves may weigh slightly more than a prime lens, you're going to have to carry double the amount of lenses, making it much less portable than carrying two zooms opposed to four prime. Now this also depends what kind of shooter you are. If you're doing stuff that's run and gun, say you're shooting documentary, event videos, promotional videos, where you need to be on the fly and capturing stuff, having to go and change lenses all the time is a bit of a pain in the ass. Also, having mountains of gear in the bag can actually slow you down and pull you away from doing what you're there to do, which is capture great footage. And then the next one on speed of setup and usability. Having a zoom lens, especially if you go for something like a 2.8, means you've got a great f-stop to get that bokeh when you're on a wide shot, but it also means without having to remove any lens from the camera, you can get a wide, a medium, and a tight. If you're shooting, it means that the lens isn't getting in the way of your creative flow. You can go and you can get multiple shots much more quickly. Next, let's talk shooting scenarios. If you're shooting an interview, having these two paired together gives you a nice medium to wide angle for your core shot and a nice second tight angle for your B cam. The same applies for if you're shooting a keynote talk, for example. You can get wide and you can get tight. For most advertising pieces, it's going to give you all the focal range and depth of field that you're going to need. If you're shooting a documentary, it gives you the flexibility to capture those moments when they're happening in front of you and not slow you down. If you're shooting any products, you can get nice and tight on the macros. And also, if you're needing that bokeh, you can use the compression of the lenses, and a 2.8 will give you everything that you need. I do think it is important just to put a little disclaimer in here. I understand if you're on a large film set, there's going to be a requirement to use different types of prime lenses or cine lenses that are specific for a certain shot. And this video is really to help you, if you are a solo filmmaker, a small crew, have peace of mind that if you're confused about which lenses to buy, getting two zoom lenses of those two focal ranges will help you achieve pretty much everything that you need to do. Now, at the start of the video, I was comparing a screwdriver to a power drill. Now, what did I actually mean? A power drill might be a bit heavier and it might be a bit more expensive, but it has an interchangeable head, meaning that it can deliver on more different tasks of screwing. Nice. Yes, it's a bit more expensive. Yes, it's heavier, but it will be able to deliver on more of the different tasks that you need it to do and do a very good job of it. A screwdriver will be really effective at screwing in one type of screw. Very much in the same way that if you get a prime, it'll be really good at shooting at that focal range. But if you wanted a screwdriver for every millimeter of focal range, you're going to end up needing to spend a lot more and get more of those screwdrivers. Eventually, this is going to take up more space and it's going to cost more money. And ultimately, it's not going to help you do a much better job. If you're interested in gear and you want to find out my recommendation for an almost perfect cinema camera, have a look at this video here. But as always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you found it valuable, leave a like, drop a subscribe on there, drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you think I'm right or wrong as to whether these two lenses are everything that you need. Drop a comment down below and let me know.